Okay, take two. Okay, there we go. Now we are live. Okay, so we're just going to let some people hop on the live stream. Give you guys a couple minutes. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. Tonight, we are here with dancer Elyse Morckel and filmmaker Denzel Washington, the inaugural recipients of the Ann Amer Brennan residency at Akron Soul Train, who joined forces to create a dance film. They will delve into their collaborative journey, provide behind the scenes insights to their creative process, and share the challenges and artistry involved in translating dance into film. Before we begin, I'd like to thank all of Akron Soul Train's sponsors for helping us continue to support innovative projects like theirs. Anyone joining us for the live stream, feel free to comment with any questions, and we will get to them. This is an open conversation, and we encourage your participation. So, Elyse and Denzel, can you kind of give us a little introduction into your project?
Yeah. Denzel, do you want to take this or do you want me to do this one?
Yeah, I can definitely take it. I feel like I've done it a couple times this week. Um, so yeah, basically, the film and dance thing that we've developed here, it was derived from a book. It's called The Pale Blue Dot by Carl Sagan. And Elyse, wonderful choreographer here. What she did a couple years ago, she created a piece called The Void. It was about a 15 to 20-minute piece. Correct me if I'm wrong, Elyse. It's a wonderful piece. If you have Vivo, go ahead and watch that mug. Uh, but what she did is created that piece. We came together for this residency, and we had the idea of mixing mediums together. So me being a cinematographer slash filmmaker, I was like, yo, got a good idea. How about we take your dance piece, which was inspired by that book, The Pale Blue Dot, and make your dance piece into a short visual. And that's kind of how we got to where we are today. So a lot of the film is derived from not only the book, but it's also derived from the movements and the themes of the dance piece in its entirety. So the film is also going to be called The Void as well. And it talks about themes of perspective, space, how we see ourselves as humans within this big void, right? And just knowing that at the end of the day, we are not the center of the universe. So it touches on those themes, and it's very cerebral, I guess you can say, at the end of the day. So I'm super excited to showcase this and having Elyse work with me as a co-producer and co-collaborator. So yeah.
Elyse, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think Denzel and I have known each other for 15 plus years. So we've you know, been around for each other's like development as individual artists. And I think that over time we would always like, see each other and be like, how can we work together? How can we, build a bridge between our two mediums? Because we know it's possible. Like this is not like we're reinventing the wheel. It's just finding the right project. And I feel like with the basis of the choreographic exploration of Void, which was again related to Carl Sagan's work, also related to just the evaluation of space in general choreographically. I feel like there is so much space to behold within the frame of the lens, and a lot more choice making. And I think that the results of the dance film will demonstrate the range of choices that are, possibility now that there's this other layered medium involved with the project. And I also really felt walking away from the original trio that the work was not finished, not meaning incomplete, but I felt that there was more to explore in various ways, and I was open to having other voices engage with that exploration. And I think that, again, that's what has transformed this work. And having Denzel's perspective, especially as a storyteller, because he does have a theater background also, that he didn't mention. um, that layered narrative element, I think, is also something that is going to be translated really well into the final product. So yeah, very excited.
Sure.
So it's interesting that I guess the inspiration started as something that was written and not visual, because like when things are written, we have to imagine, I guess, how they look in our heads. And then Elyse, you started it by imagining the choreography. And then now it's translated through a lens. Can you talk about how maybe the piece has evolved from something that's written to now something that's based off of movement, but we're directing the audience's perspective?
Well, I think that dance in general, and I don't think this is like something that's like misrepresented or just it's just not widely understood, I guess, where a lot of dance, the impetus comes from. And so I would say like a lot of dancers actually source material from the written word. It's a matter of basically translating one language into another, and the language being the language of the body. And then it's almost like it acts as a filter. So we have the filter of the original movement, and then we have the filter of the narrative. We have the filter of the camera and all of the choice making. So it's just like, again and again, sort of building out and creating more space for which the project to occupy. That's kind of how I see it. Denzel, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I think for me, the way my mind works, it's kind of like taking a 2D image, and then with Elise's work is making that 3D, right? To simplify it, and then taking that to a 4D realm. And the reason I say that is because now you have the aspects of, as Elyse mentioned before, the storytelling aspect, you have the lens, you have the camera. Aside from that, you also have lighting, you have sound effects now, you have editing. How can we play with this story to make the person that's watching it feel emotion at this point? Even though, if you go watch The Void, her piece, you'll feel emotion in that piece, but now it's more of like you have audio, you have visual, and then you have that physical aspect as well of being able to relate with the actor on screen and the dancer on screen as well. It's not just her being a mover now, it's her being an actor now as well. So I just see it. It's like she said, it's filling a space of many creative mediums. You're not just stuck on one or two planes now. It's kind of limitless at this point. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think the thing that I don't know much about dance or film, but I think it's interesting when, you're choreographing a dance, a lot of times the audience is, I guess, like in a fixed location, unless you're doing something like in the round. But now you have a moving perspective with the camera. How has that maybe helped change, or what has that experience been like to have that?
Well, I think as a filmmaker and looking at the medium of dance, like Elisa said before, like I've seen her dance for years, and I've studied dance. I've done dance in college, my little pre-courses. But I have a deep appreciation of dance. So when it comes to movement and telling that story, I feel like I let whatever she has created tell that story and move that story. So relative to the camera, it's like whatever she does, I'm going to kind of follow her movements to transform whatever that action is via telling the story. So for example, we were in a white space to uh, form the metaphor of a void. Um, but as she's dancing, we took a track in Dolly and we panned all the way around her to give the idea of her being in this limitless space, but still being able to move. Another thing that we did was a lot of dollies and a lot of match cuts in this film, which kind of relate to the themes of perspective and the shifting of perspective and different human perspectives. So to answer your question, a short way is just that having that lens, I definitely utilize the lens from her movements to tell different types of stories and to just give different types of feelings. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Makes sense to me, Denzel. And I think that that's why this works because I think that we have like a an understanding of one another and also a trust and a knowledge that we both are coming to the table with these skills that we can rely upon. And that's what makes it great.
For sure.
Yeah. I like that you mentioned having to have trust in each other. How has that kind of added, or what role did that play fully in the collaborative process? Because you're kind of trusting Denzel with your work as
Mhm.
well, right?
Yeah. And I think this when I was in college, I had like a kind of a grappling with like not necessarily like ownership of work, but identity within work. And I always was like, I don't want the work to just be a representation of myself. I want it to be standalone. And it's not that I'm married to that idea still within my choreographic practice, but I think that within art and art movements, there are times where I think that we can be a little less precious and a little bit more open to what could be. And that's something that as I've, moved into my 30s, that I feel like I'm a lot more I don't feel like I have to cling on to things in order for them to remain um of value, if that makes any sense. So, to get back to the original question, I think that over the course of, because we started talking about this end of summer 2023, and it was a lot of back and forth emails and a long Starbucks meeting at a random exit in Cleveland. Um, and I think like there have been, ebbs and flows, obviously, because this has been quite a long timeline, but there have been times where it's like I'm taking a lead or Denzel's taking the lead. And we have this trust of knowing that we each have these different skills and we know that we're going to fulfill the brief. That's what I know with Denzel and he knows with me. So I think that again, and I don't know if that directly comes from the fact that we've known each other for so long, but at the same time, we have not made a work together. So it's just, I think, also a commitment to art making in Northeast Ohio between the both of us. So that has definitely come into play.
Yeah, I would also say just to add just a quick little add on to that, that the communication has been definitely key between me and Elyse. Sometimes we might be busy with life and everybody knows like being an artist and also having real life and all these different things, right? Holidays, family, relationships, it's hard. So to be able to put a project together as big as this, I definitely feel that the communication had to be locked in and it had to be key for this experience. And I just want to tell Elyse, like, great job, kudos to you for staying on that level of communication and just being in synchronicity with me, and hopefully vice versa. I was able to do the same for you. But yeah, it definitely was
And no,
experience.
yeah, and I think that another thing within our collaboration, there's also been like a level of obvious friendship because we are friends, but it's like not every conversation that we have is always about this project. Sometimes it's about other things that are happening that are affecting how we are coming to the table
Yeah.
and providing space for each other to sort of just unburden ourselves and to say, this is what I'm holding on to, and I need to let it go. And just being like a sounding board in those types of situations, because I think it's a false narrative if you feel like you can separate your personal life from your professional work as an artist. I think that it's very difficult. I commend people who, you know, maybe are able to do that, but I think that in reality, it's much more different for working artists. So
Yeah, totally agree.
So, what part of, I guess, this process so far has been the most surprising for both of you?
I'd say I think the surprise for me is I think this also comes into like the trust element, because I obviously was there during production because I was the one on camera, and I know Denzel's vision, but at the same time, I am not going to be in the editing room with him. Like, I'm sure we're going to have touch points and stuff, but for me, that surprise is going to come at the finish. And I think that that is something that I'm really looking forward to. Because I think that there's a movement within dance making practices, choreography, that relies heavily on chance. And I think that this element of, like, you know, chance making through Denzel's choices is going to bring something brand new to my own perspective to both this version of the work and the original, and could continue to inform iterations of it in the future. So that's what I'm most looking forward to, or the surprising element.
I think the most surprising thing for me has been the support had through just outside elements with other artists, right? Like the crew that came together. Also, you know, there was a film shop that gave us equipment for a heavily discounted fee. There's been a lot of just support when it comes to the artist community, the filmmaking community, as well as the dance community. So I feel like that was definitely the biggest surprise for me. I was like, "Yo, I'm shooting with an $80,000 camera, um, and this is because people believe in the vision and they believe in, you know, the body of work that we planned out, the pre-production that was showcased, and the meetings that I had with people outside of, you know, me and Elyse to get this together to make this happen. And Elyse has done that as well. You know, we got free studio space, all that different stuff. But all that to say, the support from the artists in whatever area, this Ohio area, it was awesome, and I was very surprised by that. So
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
huge shout out to all the
yeah,
wonderful people that we worked with during production. Like, they were incredible, and I was very grateful to have them a part of the experience. And Denzel brought so many wonderful people together from all over, like all over. And I think that's just a testament to his relationships within the artistic community as well. So yeah, and shout out to my good friends at Black Valve.
shout out to Black
So
Brown and Lumino.
yeah.
Shout out to both of them.
Yeah. So, I'm for viewers that might not be as like involved or know much, like what can you elaborate a little bit more, like what kind of work goes into a production like this? Like the people involved, the time, the spatial needs, like how has that kind of just exploded, I guess?
Well, I think it's a little bit different for me and Elise. But as far as film production goes, you always want to lock into whatever the idea is, right? You start with that idea, you meet, like Elise was talking about, the coffee shop meeting, right? You come up with that idea and then you tailor that idea, you craft it, right? Um, so you might find some things. My first thing that I wanted to do was read that book. to make sure I had a full idea and scale of what I needed to understand as far as her piece was involved. Next thing that I did was watch the piece, right? I had to watch the boy piece. And then from there, you develop your pre-production. And that is mood boards, that's setting out what the themes are of the piece, identifying, what do you want people to feel and what do you want people to be in tune and in touch with this piece, but also how do we get across those themes that were heavily involved within the piece of the boy and also the book. You always want to stay true to what the main themes were of the original piece, I feel personally. And then after that, you get to writing the script or outlining how you want to shoot these specific scenes. That's where the creative comes in my mind, at least. You see a vision. This specific project was very enveloped with space. Like I said before, I mentioned that before, Earth. If you look at the stars, if you look at different planets, so I'm finding pictures of Venus and Mars, and I'm also finding pictures of forests and oceans and just things that are of the Earth, right? So then you do that, and then after that, it's your development phase. So you have the script written, you have the pre-production, then you reach out to people. And that's where I talked about going to Lumino, reaching out to them, asking them about camera equipment. I had to reach out to a guy that I know, he's one of my mentors. And I was like, yo, would you like the AC for me? Would you like to be an assistant camera for me? Because the way that my vision was working, I didn't want to do this with just a DSLR. I'm like, yo, if we're gonna actually do this and have the means to do this, I would like to have, like I said before, like an $80,000 camera and Aria Alexa. And with that, you need an AC to man the camera. I can't be doing everything with the camera. Then you need a crew, right? You need people to light. You need people to assist and direct and make sure everything is going correct, make sure the timing is correct. So I have to reach out to the crew as well. Then after that, got to reach out to the studios, locations, make sure everything is secure. You might have to go scout. I had to go scout myself. So I went out, looked at some forests. I looked at downtown where I wanted to shoot. I went to look at the studio. I did some testing in the studio with a different camera and a different model the week of, just to make sure I had my lighting and stuff down and how I wanted to maneuver. And then after that, you got to design the call sheet. So you got to make sure everybody knows where they're going. So design the call sheet, make sure everybody is locked in, do your last minute communication with everybody, make sure everything is paid off, make sure everything is set up for that day. And then you get to shoot. So yeah, and surprisingly, we did all of that in one day because I think we should have done it in 2 days, but we had to make what we had work. It was a 10-hour shoot, maybe 10 hours plus, but we got it done. So that was my process.
So did you shoot like, I guess, on location then for some things?
Yeah, so we had three separate locations. One location was a studio, one location was a downtown area, and then the Italian Gardens in Cleveland. We shot there as well.
Yeah. Elyse, how did it change, I guess, performing in an outdoor natural environment as opposed to maybe like a stage?
Man, Elyse hated me.
Well, contrary to what a lot of people expect of dance, the majority of my especially collegiate performance times were not in traditional proscenium stage spaces. We were undergoing a great deal of like construction within our department. So, for example, one of my faculty concerts took place in an animal show arena, and we danced in dirt. I've danced in trash. I've danced in abandoned warehouses. So I think that I knew what was coming. Obviously, it was November. We shot the week of Thanksgiving. It was quite cold. So there was a lot of external factors that, of course, like are those uncontrollables, especially in outdoor locations. But I think that because we had clear plan and we knew exactly what we needed and we had support the day of, we were able to make it happen. I think that it was obviously an interesting challenge to perform some of the movement on non-traditional dance floor spaces specifically. And I think that you'll see an influence, obviously, based off of the environment, because that's what we're going for. We want to showcase the fact that, you know, me, the character, is traveling through all these different locations and interacting with these spaces, and it's changing how the movement is executed. It's another layer of manipulation, I would say, because it's all within context, right? We identify things within the context that they're in. So I think that for me, it was wonderful to be able to experience that, not only as the choreographer, but also the performer. And I was a part of the original cast. But now as it is like a solo work, it's a little different, obviously. But I think it's going to be really interesting visually as well. But yeah.
Yeah. Did was any like choreography added or changed dramatically from the original?
I would say yes. There is the basis of the work was actually based off of a numeric system that was identified with or corresponded rather to a set of gestures. I typically base my work off of numeric patterns that have no mathematical representation other than what I would like them to look like on the page. And then I assign movement because again, I feel like it's a way of dance making that doesn't rely on me asking myself, does this look good? Because I think that that's it's like very subjective. And I like to be very objective when it comes to approaching a new work. And then from there, it was played with, manipulated with, expanded upon in various different ways with choreographic tools that, you know, choreographers, dancers are familiar with. Nothing fancy. And I think that when we started to think about this project, I knew that the base movement would be the same, but I did not intend for it to be a complete redo. So when I recognized that this was going to be just a solo, I knew that because I was the one filtering the movement, I would be able to make choices. And I think that that choice making is reflexive of the original, but it also leaves room for me to explore the new within the context of all that we've built upon. So you're going to see that in the film version. There is a lot of new movement, but the tethers are still there. And then there's also, of course, what we call like the base phrase that's indicated and, you know, utilized throughout in multiple ways that is directly referencing the original. So again, because I didn't feel like this needed to be a direct reboot, I feel like there was the space to explore the new. And that's what I wanted. I think that's what Denzel wanted too, because we wanted it to also acknowledge and reflect the narrative that was being layered. So that's something that I played with on my own, like in studio practice, leading up to the shoot.
Do you have any advice for any other artists that might want to do like cross collaboration between different disciplines?
You want to go, Elyse?
No, you go first.
I would say always just don't be afraid to network with people and to reach out to people for resources. Um, just plan it, please. And just don't be afraid to do something new. Like don't be afraid to mix three different, different mediums. Don't be afraid to try something out of the box. If you think it's too small, make it grander than what it is. don't stifle your vision. That's my advice. But definitely network with people. I think that's one of the biggest things. Our artist community in Cleveland, Akron, we definitely need to know, you know, we are here for each other at the end of the day. So
I want to say I agree with all of that 100%. The only thing I would add to that is when you're working with collaborators, don't think that your ideas are the best ones. Like going into it, like have that perspective. It's like no one has like the right way, and we shouldn't always be married to one vision of what it should be. We should have a unified idea, but the end result should be a result of us coming together with all of these thoughts and figuring it out together. Like obviously when we put this presentation together, we had like a general rough idea of what the end result would be, but we left it as open-ended as possible because we knew that over time it would change. And there are a lot of factors that influence that change, but again, acknowledge that change is going to happen. Don't be precious with it, and you're probably going to get something better than you originally intended or envisioned.
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah, so I'll just once again let anyone know that's watching. If you guys want to ask a question or if you have your own comment, you can put it in the comments. If you're watching this after the live stream, you can put it in the comments and I will look at them and ask Elyse and Denzel. So give people some time to do that if they want. I have just two more questions for you to kind of wrap up. Did you like learn anything new about what the other person does that you didn't really know before?
Mm, I don't think so.
No,
I don't think
No.
so. No.
I think that we both like, because we both follow each other's like,
Yeah.
career, and we're pretty aware of the work that we both do. And I don't know, I think because we've known each other for so long, it's like there was already that connection established. I think that like, had we met perhaps through like me seeing something, a clip of Denzel's work online, I feel like maybe that would have been a more natural occurrence. But I mean, I've known him since I was 15 years old. So
Facts, facts.
Yeah.
No,
Is this the first time, I guess, at least you would be working with a filmmaker, or Denzel, you'd be working with a dancer?
no.
no.
Yeah.
So
I
you
think it
come
depends.
in with a little experience, yeah.
Yes.
I think it's a different style. I think the approach is totally different.
Yes.
If it was up to me, this is the approach that I will always have. But yeah, it's definitely different.
And then we'll finish out on what are you most excited about for the final product? Or
Uh,
is the journey the thing that was most exciting? I don't know.
I think the thing, as far in relation to the product, I think the thing that I'm always excited about, just because the piece is so cerebral, is to see what people actually think about it and what is their, what did, it's like watching Inception, right? And the end of the movie, you're like, okay, did that happen or did it not happen? So I want to see what people's viewpoints are to the piece, and if it correlates to our themes. Like that's the beautiful thing about art, right? It's all subjective. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I agree. And I also am curious to see if we get feedback from other artists who may have input into what the next iteration of Void will be.
Mhm.
Because again, like I think that this journey continues on from here, and we'll just continue building on it and perhaps extending more collaborations to others to engage within the project's future. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that too.
Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds so awesome. We're so excited for it. anyone watching, the film will be premiering at Akron Soul Train in our gallery starting February 26th of next year, and it'll be playing until April 5th. So you'll have a nice long time to see it in the gallery space, online, and anywhere else it pops up, and then see the next iteration. So that's so exciting. Okay, well, thank you, Elyse. Thank you, Denzel. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll see you in the next live stream. Bye.